As I said, welcome. Today's 29th of September, 2020. As usual, I'll give an update on what I found for what I did yesterday for apple maturity testing. Probably not comprehensive on everything that's out there, but I did what I could. Oh, first, I always like to talk about the weather. Hey, look at that. The first time in several weeks where there's rain in the forecast. And the rain's coming Wednesday, tomorrow, and Friday. So that's a good thing. It looks like it's supposed to clear up for the weekend and cool off. So if that holds, I'm not happy about a rainy day because I'll be stuck in the office, but I think we need one. Quickly looking at next week, the forecast beginning October 4th, a better than average chance of below normal temperatures and a better than average chance of above normal precipitation for next week. So I guess as long as it comes during the week, the rain, and not during the weekend, nobody's going to complain too much. Although if it starts raining a lot, that could slow down the wholesale harvest for sure. You know, I always, if the Big E was in session, this would be the last week. Had a pretty good stretch of weather, and normally the Topsfield Fair would get going. I'm not sure actually would get going, and it always starts raining during the Topsfield Fair. You can almost count on that, but I guess there won't be any fairs this year. All right, the first one I looked at was Macoun. You know, they're finally coming into their own. I saw some nice dark red color. Dwayne Green reminded us last week as they get that nice, real dark maroon, they start eating good. The starch was still about 3 to 4. I got a Macoun here. I should bring all the apples in and show them to you. You know, it's getting pretty good, nice dark red color. So I'm sure everybody is well into Macoun harvest now, and that should be good for the next week or so. I did notice some drop. You know, they will start to drop, and they're pretty tightly clustered. So they have some push-off issues going into the harvest. Empire, I looked at Empire. They're definitely here at least, ready to harvest for long-term storage and fresh eating very soon. Like to see the bricks come up a little bit on them, but they're clearly going to be over the next week to 10 days should be being picked here. And even Aaron said up in the hill towns, the Empire are starting to be harvested. You know, as we get towards the end of the season, I find that everything starts to get compressed. So like as you even move north and into the hill towns, we start to come together on maturity on everything. Earlier in the season, the warmer spots definitely mature earlier. But as we get later in the year, later in the harvest season, things start to come together. It's my opinion. Liberty, I know you probably don't want to hear about Liberty. It eats really good right now. I think that if I was growing a bunch of Liberties, I'd be picking them right about now. You don't want Liberty to get too mature. Retain works good on Liberty. My Liberty here aren't treated with Retain, so I'll be picking them probably on Thursday. On these Macintosh type apples, the DA meter does not work well, so you don't even bother with it. You know, it's a really nice apple. It doesn't store well, but if you treat it with Retain, it does better. It's interesting, it just hasn't caught on, but I know a few of you got them out there. This one here is kind of a personal favorite of mine. We have some mixed in with the Macoun block in Belchertown. It was tested as DS65. I had them up at the University of Vermont. It was out of Hilltop Nursery and Wally Hauser. They named it Golden Glory. I'm not sure they ever patented. I think it's kind of gone by the wayside, but it's a nice, very nice, large, gets a nice pink blush, Golden Delicious type. It's a little earlier than regular Golden Delicious. If anybody wants any Budwood this winter, let me know, because I don't think it's patented. You can't buy it as far as I know anywhere. Speaking of Golden Delicious, regular Gibson Golden Delicious I have. I thought they were pretty green looking still. I picked some and tested them. You know, they are losing their starch. You know, I always say the first week in October is kind of when these would be picked, and this year's no exception. The bricks was up there on them, good firmness. The DA was, you know, if it's over 1, they're kind of green still, so I'd give them some more time. Ambrosia, these are light crop trees. Definitely should be picked. The DA was very low. I thought they ate just fine. So my recommendation for Ambrosia on lightly cropped trees to pick them sooner. Now, if the crop is a little heavier, they're not gonna mature as early. I always again say light golden delicious for Ambrosia the first week in October. Jonagold, they're huge this year. Even though there's a good crop in the trees, the apples are just very large. These were gorgeous. I picked by color. Definitely starting to get a touch of greasiness, and I need to speak to Sean at the orchard. I assume they're starting to pick these. If not, they should be picking them at least a first pick ASAP. Definitely probably a two-pick apple. And you probably don't want to hear about pizzazz, but these are coming into their own right now. Technically, this variety should be available if you want to plant. I think the minimum quantity is 200 trees. But pizzazz growers in New York and the Midwest will be starting to pick these pretty soon. They definitely have a bite to them right now with the acid, but once they're in storage for a couple of months, they eat much better. And this apple keeps almost forever in regular cold storage, almost a year. To balance that out, though, this is one of the Cornell introduced three new apples in the past couple of weeks. Pink Luster was harvested back in early September. There's one called Cordera, which is a scab-resistant apple. I have a light crop of those, and I looked at a light crop at Tugas. I'm not going to talk about that one because I don't think they were ready. That one seems to have some issues too. But this one here, Firecracker, tested as New York 1602. It's not a real big apple. A nice crop on my Geneva 935 trees, third leaf. Picked them last week. They definitely have a very spicy, unique flavor. Might do well in pick your owns. If I were you, I'd plant some. They should be a good blend in cider because Cornell is touting them as a good hard cider apple, but I think they've got a rather unique flavor, spicy, complex. It's unlike a lot of stuff out there. So those, I think, if you want to try something new and different, I'd suggest trying to get some trees from Waffler Nursery. So that's my maturity report. I will open it up to questions or comments when we get done here. I did want to mention this coronavirus food assistance program round 2, which just came out. Eligible specialty crops include almost everything you guys grow, including vegetables, your blueberries. Purportedly, it'll make a payment of 8.8 to 10.6. There's a sliding scale. The more money you made, the lower the percentage. But it's based on 2019 sales of all raw fruits and vegetables grown by the producer. So that's a pretty significant payment for many people. I haven't fully investigated the program, but the application deadline, you can wait till your harvest is over. But I would not ignore this one because I think the application is fairly simple. You don't have to supply documentation upon application, but if they have the right to check on you, so you will need to supply sales receipts in terms of gross sales of some form. If you tell them you had $500,000 in sales and you expect a payment on that, you better be ready to document it. Maybe some of you have looked into this more than I have recently. I'm not eligible for anything, but certainly you want to take advantage of that if you can, because that's that'll help you perhaps offset costs that you've had in 2020 in terms of trying to market your crop in light of COVID. So that was quick and easy. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.